As a week passed, Kageyama sat at his desk, a blank piece of paper in front of him, a pen gripped tightly in his hand. He was determined to write his second love note to Tsukishima, as his secret admirer. However, as he attempted to put his thoughts into words, he couldn't help but feel his cheeks grow warm and his heart race. He stared at the empty page, trying to find the right words that would convey his feelings without giving away his true identity. Kageyama had never been good with words, especially when it came to matters of the heart, but he was determined to make this note special, to let Tsukishima know just how much he meant to him. As Kageyama started to write, his mind became a jumbled mess of thoughts and emotions. He couldn't help but recall all the moments he had spent with Tsukishima, the way his heart would flutter whenever their eyes met, and the warmth that spread through his chest whenever Tsukishima smiled. But every time Kageyama tried to put those feelings into words, his writing became a mess of scribbles and crossed-out sentences. He couldn't find the right way to express himself, and the frustration only made his face grow redder. Kageyama took a deep breath and tried to calm himself. He reminded himself that this love note was meant to be a secret, a way for him to express his feelings without revealing his true identity. He couldn't afford to let his nerves get the best of him. With renewed determination, Kageyama started again. This time, he focused on the little things he loved about Tsukishima, the way his eyes sparkled when he laughed, the softness of his hair, and the way he always seemed to understand Kageyama even when he didn't say a word. As the words flowed onto the paper, Kageyama couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. He poured his heart into every word, hoping that Tsukishima would be able to feel the sincerity behind them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Kageyama finished his second love note. He read it over one last time, a mix of nervousness and excitement coursing through his veins. With a deep breath, he carefully folded the note and placed it in an envelope, ready to be delivered to Tsukishima's locker. Kageyama knew that this love note might change things between them, but he was willing to take that risk. He wanted Tsukishima to know how much he cared, even if it meant stepping out of his comfort zone. And with that, Kageyama sealed the envelope, his heart pounding in his chest, as he prepared to send his feelings off into the unknown. Kageyama had a plan. He wasn't going to continue to this every week. He was only writing 3 notes. His was his second note, which was why his nerves were so bad today. "Baka, what are you doing standing in the middle of the hallway?" Hinata yelled, and Kageyama looked at Hinata. He was so focused on that note that he forgot all about Hinata. "Let's just go to practice before we have to do extra laps." "Race you there. You're on, bouquet." Tsukishima stood in the dimly lit gym, his mind racing as he recalled the events of the past week. The mystery of the plushie in his locker had consumed his thoughts. It was a simple, albeit cute, green dinosaur plushie that seemed to taunt him every time he opened his locker. He had dismissed it as a prank initially because he realized it was useless to only hope of it being Kageyama, but the more he thought about it, the more he realized that there was only one person who would go to such lengths: Kageyama. He had always found Kageyama's competitive nature and obsession with volleyball to be annoying, but there was something endearing about the way he had dedicated himself to making the team stronger. Tsukishima shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. Why was he even considering this? The plushie was probably just a stupid joke, the letter to, after all. But as he continued to piece together the clues, the way Kageyama had been unusually cheerful lately, the slight smirk on his face when he'd caught Tsukishima staring at the plushie, Tsukishima felt a growing certainty: Kageyama was definitely behind it. The next day, Tsukishima decided to confront him. He waited patiently by the lockers, heart pounding in anticipation. As the practice ended and the usual bustle of team members filled the room, he spotted Kageyama lingering near the entrance. Glancing back at the lockers, Tsukishima's resolve strengthened. This was his chance. He approached Kageyama, a smirk plastered on his face. "So, how does it feel to be a plushie thief?" he challenged, crossing his arms. Kageyama's eyes widened in surprise, and for a split second, Tsukishima thought he might actually admit it. But then, Kageyama's expression shifted to one of panic. Without a word, He turned on his heel and bolted toward the exit. "What the fuck? Why are you running?" Tsukishima shouted, racing after him. He couldn't believe Kageyama would just run away like that. The gym echoed with the sounds of their footsteps as Tsukishima chased Kageyama through the hallways. Kageyama was fast, a testament to his athleticism, but Tsukishima was fueled by adrenaline and determination. He rounded a corner, gaining ground. "You think you can just run away after pulling a stupid prank?" he yelled, frustration bubbling to the surface. But Kageyama didn't stop. He dashed outside, the warm sunlight flashing in Tsukishima's eyes, momentarily blinding him. By the time he regained his focus, Kageyama had disappeared around the corner of the building. Panting, Tsukishima came to a halt. He leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath, a mix of irritation and confusion swirling within him. Why did Kageyama run? Was he embarrassed? Or was he just too proud to admit it? Tsukishima couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment as he stared at the empty space where Kageyama had been moments before. The plushie had somehow sparked a connection, one that now felt unresolved. He sighed. Knowing that this wasn't over, he would confront Kageyama again, and next time, he wouldn't let him run away. Kageyama had been feeling unusually nervous as he entered the gym that day. Ever since he had decided to put the plushie in Tsukishima's locker, a mix of excitement and anxiety had bubbled beneath the surface. It had started as a simple idea, but now, with each passing day, he wondered if he had made a huge mistake. The plushie was just a small green dinosaur, but it carried a weight of significance. Kageyama had thought that he could make Tsukishima smile and look forward to his gifts. He had imagined Tsukishima's usual scowl softening, just for a moment, when he found the plushie, but instead, he had only seen the annoyance flicker in his eyes. The annoyance built up every time he opened his locker to another plushie. He didn't even open the last letter. As practice wrapped up, Kageyama found himself glancing toward the lockers, his heart racing. He was supposed to be focused on the team, but all he could think about was Tsukishima's reaction. What if he had overstepped? What if Tsukishima hated it? Just as he was about to slip out of the gym and avoid the confrontation altogether, he spotted Tsukishima approaching. Kageyama's stomach dropped. He had hoped to avoid any direct confrontation about the plushie. Tsukishima's smirk was unmistakable, and Kageyama could see the gears turning in his head. "So, how does it feel to be a plushie thief?" Tsukishima taunted, crossing his arms. The accusation hung in the air, thick with challenge. Kageyama's mind raced. He hadn't expected Tsukishima to confront him so boldly. Panic surged through him as he grappled with the situation. All at once, he felt exposed, as if Tsukishima could see right through him. Instead of standing his ground, he did the only thing that came to mind. He turned and bolted. "What the fuck? Why are you running?" Tsukishima shouted, his voice echoing through the gym. Kageyama's heart pounded as he dashed outside. He could hear Tsukishima's footsteps behind him, closing in. Why couldn't he just admit it? Why did he have to run away like this? But the urge to escape was overpowering. He sprinted around the corner of the building, adrenaline coursing through him. Kageyama didn't want to face Tsukishima's judgments or his teasing. He just wanted to disappear for a moment, to gather his thoughts and figure out what he had done. As he leaned against the cool brick wall, panting, Kageyama couldn't shake the feeling of disappointment in himself. He had wanted to connect with Tsukishima, to show him that there was more to the team than just volleyball, but now, he had only succeeded in making things awkward. Peeking around the corner, he saw no sign of Tsukishima. Maybe he had lost him. A part of him felt relieved, but another part felt frustrated. He had to confront Tsukishima again, to explain his intentions. After all, the plushie had been a gesture of goodwill, a way to reach out, but now, he feared that he had only pushed Tsukishima further away. With a heavy sigh, Kageyama pushed himself off the wall. He knew he couldn't avoid this forever. He'd have to face Tsukishima, plushie or not, and hope that maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to understand each other better. Kageyama took a deep breath, steeling himself for the inevitable confrontation. He could still hear Tsukishima's voice ringing in his ears, the teasing laced with irritation. Plushy thief echoed like a challenge, daring him to step up and face the consequences of his actions. After a moment of hesitation, he made his way back toward the gym, determined to set things right. As he entered, he spotted Tsukishima leaning against the wall, arms crossed and a skeptical expression on his face. The other teammates were scattered around, but the tension between the two of them felt palpable. "Thought you were going to run away for good," Tsukishima said, a hint of sarcasm in his tone, but there was something else there too, curiosity. Perhaps Kageyama felt a mixture of embarrassment and resolve swell within him. "Look," Kageyama began, his voice steadier than he felt. "I didn't mean to make you mad, I just thought it would be a good way to confess." He gestured toward the plushie, which Tsukishima had tossed aside, still visible in the corner of the locker area. "I really like you, and the first time I tried to confess I couldn't, so I thought." "Thought what?" Tsukishima interrupted, raising an eyebrow. "That a dinosaur would magically change everything." The skepticism in his voice was clear, but Kageyama detected a flicker of interest in his eyes. "It was just a small gesture," Kageyama replied, frustration bubbling up. "You're always so serious, and I thought maybe it would be a good laugh. I know how hard things have been lately." "Hard?" Tsukishima scoffed, but Kageyama could sense the tension easing just a bit. "You think I need a plushie to deal with that?" "No," Kageyama admitted, taking a step closer. "But I want you to know that it's okay to let your guard down sometimes. I like you, and I thought it might help us connect." Tsukishima's expression softened slightly, and for a moment, Kageyama thought he saw a crack in his facade. "You really think a plushie can change how I feel about you?" Kageyama hesitated but pressed on. "I'm not saying it will change anything, but it's a start. You don't have to accept my feelings, but just know I didn't do it as a joke. I just really like you." There was a silence between them, and Kageyama could feel the weight of their unspoken thoughts. Then Tsukishima sighed, looking away. "You're such a dork, Kageyama, you know that, right?" Kageyama felt a rush of relief, mixed with a hint of pride. "Yeah, I guess I am." "Fine," Tsukishima said, a small smirk returning to his face. "But don't expect me to hug the plushie or anything." Kageyama chuckled, the tension lifting. "That's okay, just don't throw it away next time." They lingered for a moment, the atmosphere shifting from confrontation to something lighter. Kageyama felt a sense of accomplishment. He had faced his fears and opened a door to communication. Maybe this was the beginning of something new between them. "Let's get back to practice," Tsukishima said, pushing himself off the wall. "But you owe me an explanation about why you thought I'd like a stupid dinosaur." "Deal," Kageyama replied, feeling a surge of gratitude. They walked back together, the bond between them already strengthening, and Kageyama couldn't help but smile at the thought that sometimes, it only takes a small gesture to start building connections, even if they weren't on the track of dating right now. It was somewhere in that path,